Everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to our live in the studio. We actually enjoyed the cozy effect of being down here so much that we decided to come back again. 2 weeks. It feels like a very long 2 weeks since we were here
It really
last.
has. It's been so busy. So much has gone on.
Yeah.
It's virtually a completely different season as well. It's like we went from, I think, the summer to proper autumn.
Sorry.
I think. Yeah. I got sidetracked there because I could hear myself.
Yeah, I had to, in order to be able to see all of the chat, I have got this down here, but I forgot to turn the sound off. So we've got, we've got ourselves in stereo, which is a little disconcerting, I have to say.
That's
I'm seeing here we've got someone from Canada. We have Melvia is from Rochester, Carol's Virginia, Sandy is Southern Ontario in Canada, Laura from Minnesota, Audrey from Chattanooga, Kirsty from Yorkshire in the UK, and we have Michaela from Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. Look at this. We've Salt Lakes, Brazil on vacation. Okay, Mary, I'm a little jealous.
That's amazing. Thank you for tuning in on your holiday.
We have been having an awful lot of fun with our Saoirse knitalong because, like, you guys, you're moving through it so quickly. I am really impressed because we're in clue 3, which obviously is the sleeves and the neck and the body. And as you can see, ta-da!
Yeah. So we have the 3 versions,
yeah,
which is great. We have the cumulus, the nua, and the blossom.
And yours is a mix of both because you've got, like, you're in blosty yarn, which is different, but you've done the cowl neck, like in the vest, and you've done a straight body, like in the vest as well.
Straight body, yes, yeah.
And we've also downsized it because I was kind of fairly generous with the sizing in each of these, and you kept this a size smaller than if you were probably usually knitting it for yourself to show what it looked like with the little less
But it's
ease.
nice enough.
Yeah,
I think
it works well. It's a different effect.
It really is, but I think that's kind of the best part about this pattern is, like, I feel like you get 3 completely different pieces.
Yeah.
With depending, like, on what you're picking and also what wool you're picking, and the fact that you can knit the same pattern with the cumulus and the blasta is amazing.
It does behave differently, which we'll make sure to talk about because I've got a few questions there from people. I'm looking down here. Nadia's in Neve. Hey, Nadia.
Hello.
We've got Thunder Bay in Canada and Germany. Wow, we're very international today, I have to say. Laura, I'm trying to see up here. I saw a question. Lucy was saying most sleeve lengths are a little long for you. How much will it grow when you block it? That is going to depend on your swatch. So I would actually suggest that, obviously you can't go back and redo the swatch, but I would suggest even blocking on the needles, like steam blocking, because I found that with the sleeves, I wanted to really speed through it. So I didn't steam block, and I did find it grew a bit. But, like, generally, if you get a steamer out and you get the stitch pattern to loosen up, and in particular, if it matches the row gauge that you've got in your swatch when it's loosened up, you can get a much more accurate length. But because it's like I think of this pattern as has an accordion effect because you've got 3 stockinette stitch and 1 reverse stockinette stitch, so it goes.
Yeah, and I had the same kind of worry about the sleeves. So what I did is that I finished the sleeves, but I did not weave in the ends, and I left a generous amount, thinking, oh, if it doesn't suit me, it's going to be very easy to frog it a little bit. Yeah. So I no longer weave in the ends before I block now.
Yeah,
because I'm like, that gives me a little bit of room.
Yes, because it's no fun trying to unpick woven
in
ends.
It is
particularly if you're good at doing it, it's really tricky.
It's not fun.
Yeah. And it's like when I made this first of all and post blocking, it was actually a little longer, but I think as it relaxed, you can see it's actually sprung back a little bit as well. So that does happen a small bit with the stitch pattern. So usually, blocking your block gauge is going to give you the answer, and trying it on as you go. And I think that you're totally right. Just not finishing, not weaving in the ends. I mean, you could possibly even do where you didn't do a bind off and just put it on, a cord and checked, after you blocked and finished it and then made those final adjustments. Because it could be even a matter of slightly less cuff, for instance, that you make the garter stitch cuff a little shorter, a little longer at the end. So you don't have to rip the whole thing out again.
Yeah, and also I think it depends on the wool that our viewer is using, because I'd say the cumulus doesn't block at all the same way the blaster does. The blaster blocks very differently.
I've just had a request here from Mel asking both of us to stand. So
hopefully we'll stay in the frame.
She's a lot taller than me. We're a bit cut off. She's taller than me, and we've knit the same size. Hers is in Blasta and mine is in Nua. The length of mine grew a little bit more, so hers has ended up a bit shorter. Yeah. And also yours is got you went straight down with the shaping, so that there's the very same as in the vest. Whereas mine has a little bit of waist shaping in and a little bit out, and our heads are totally cut off when we do that, which just looks really weird. But
like it does look like we're wearing a very different garment, though.
I know.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the.
Yeah, and the thing is as well that like the one thing that there's like there's a couple of questions, and a lot of them relate to the cowl and the fact that like this is the original cumulus version, and you can see that the cowl on this, because it's cumulus, is super drapey. Obviously it's going to look a little different here on the Blasta. So for your one, you've got the thing.
So I've got the microphone on.
Do you want to clip it off altogether, and I can just hold it up for you so you're showing it? Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, because like it gives such a different result. As we can see, like the Blasta really stands more on the neck. And like so I personally like this because it is like a lot of room, and yet I still have something around it. It's like having a loose scarf on, which is really nice. But I'd say it would be so easy to just make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah. You were showing what it looked like when it was kind of folded out earlier on as well.
You can wear it differently,
And like this one is 5 inches long, so you could actually knit this longer if you wanted to be more like of a funnel neck.
I don't know if it's visible on the camera.
No, it's totally visible. Yeah, I think that looks really nice too. And like because I like loose cowls, or if you like loose cowls, one of the things you could also end up doing is going up another needle size for if you're doing it in Blasta, which is going to be slightly stiffer. You could do more increase, like an increase round at the beginning before you did the garter stitch, or even more increases at the front so it drapes a little bit. So all of those are going to have a big impact on how it's going to drape for you. And I think they'd all be great. And it definitely is personal taste for this, I think, because some people are going to like it higher up, others hate anything close to their neck. So you're going to know which is going to work best for you. So like the first question was, from Denise was she was thinking about doing an I-cord rather than Icelandic bind off around the neck.
I love the Icelandic bind off though. Yeah, that was fun.
And she was just worried if it was going to be too heavy. And I don't think so. It'll be like you wouldn't want to do it too tightly. That's the biggest thing.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah,
like I-cord tend to be really tight.
Yeah,
and I would use an I-cord at the end of the garter, for instance, the way we did at the bottom, just so it's kind of, it keeps like its structure.
Yeah.
But if I wanted, like, depends on the effect I want to give though.
Yeah.
Because you can,
you could get away with it on the cumulus. It's going to have less of an impact, because you can see that the I-cord isn't going to be as big or as heavy on the cumulus. Again, bigger needle size. Think about what you want. You usually want drape, whereas if you wanted more of a funnel neck, go deeper. The I-cord is going to kind of give it more structure, and maybe that's what you're going for rather than a draped cowled effect, Laura is saying she's thinking that she might knit the cowl neck so it's 10 inches so it can fold over. I think that would be great, Laura.
Yeah.
I would possibly move up, maybe start with the smaller needle size and then even move up to a larger needle size, or do just a few increases so that it gets a little bit more drape on the edge, so that it will drape rather than being straight up and down. That would be lovely, I think.
Yeah, because I think it depends on the styling. I wear a lot of shirts with a collar, and I think like using the cowl as it is right now on the Blasta, I would fold it in half and still wear my shirt inside, like the color of my shirt, and like, because I like that, again, it protects your neck from the wind, and like it's very nice.
There's a question here from Kirsty. If she wanted a much closer crew neck, would it be best to do some additional decreases in the garter at the front as well as the back? I wouldn't. What I would do is, again, stick with the smaller needle size. For closer, the back ones are going to bring it in enough, and it's not going to be an obvious shape, whereas you don't really want the decrease lines here, but you want to go and do just do it a little bit wider. And if you did want, if it still wasn't small enough for you, the other option could be that you just did a few decreases before you do the I-cord bind off to bring it in a little bit. But because if you do extra width, and every knit round for the garter stitch, if you do a decrease on those spots, it's going to naturally bring it in anyway. So I think that would be enough combined with the extra depth, and then possibly one extra decrease round if it didn't feel like enough, you know. But I love this, that like everyone has their own ways that they like to wear sweaters.
Yeah. And it's that's why it's such a nice thing to have a very polyvalent pattern. Yeah. It can do many things. Polyvalent. Sorry, that's French. Apologies. It's very versatile.
Yes, there you go. That's good. But it still sounds similar. It's like
polyvalent, able to do many things.
As I'm looking over here, there was another couple of questions. One was from Angela, and she was asking about a high-low hem at the thing. So the idea being that she was thinking about doing the front of it, the length of the front of the hips, and then having the back one as far as the low hips. And your question was, would it be too obvious within the stitch pattern, or should you stick it to the garter stitch? My feeling is garter stitch. I think it's going to look better, and you're going to have much more versatility. Like you could do it across here. You'd have to pay very close attention, because obviously you'd end up stepping across these. And more so, if it was all this stitch pattern, I'd say that'd be no problem. But for me, things like going across these bands are going to look a little messy. So I actually think finish a little sooner because you want it up here, and then just go in so that you've got a garter stitch edging down the bottom. That would be, that's my overall feeling. Like it would be possible with the rest, but I'm not sure it's going to give you as good or as tidy an end effect, you know.
And would you be doing, you would be doing short rows, right, to achieve that effect?
Yeah, because I'd usually do with this, if you were doing something like that, is you'd have, say you were from here to here was the point that's going to be the shortest. So you'd start the first one there, and then you'd step out, and you'd step out. And if you wanted a smooth, you know, kind of a bell curve, it means that initially you'll be stepping wildly, and then you might make them a little closer towards the end to have kind of a steeper curve. Or you could just keep it as a very shallow slope all the way around. But usually getting some knitting graph paper out, sketching up the shape you want, and then figuring how many rows will work into that should work really well. Have you done that before? Have you added a short row hems?
No, I've never done it myself, because I was always intimidated by short rows. But I think because you talk about it a lot and you use short rows a lot, so I'm kind of like, I'm getting closer and closer to. Like, I'd say garter stitch would be really nice with the short rows, because it really blends them into the design really well. Yeah.
And like the key is always going to be keep it balanced, so that you've got, if you do it on one side, you do it on the other side, because the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want them to be lopsided, so that your short rows are centered around one hip. Like, well, maybe you want that, but
asymmetrical.
Usually just make sure it's balanced on each side, and sketch it out, ideally with knitted graph paper, because that's going to be much shorter. So, and garter stitch is even shorter still, so it's very vertically compressed is the best way to put it.
Nicely put.
There you go. I must double check here if there's anything else. Nope. I think they're the questions on that one. And over here there was another one. Julia was asking, was running into problems with the Icelandic bind off. She found that because she was knitting in cumulus, that it ended up being very, very tight, and she had a really hard time getting it loose. And in the end, what did work for her was pulling the stitches really loose before she knit the next one. So did you run into any problems with Icelandic bind off?
No, so I did not have that at all with the Bloster.
Yeah.
I can imagine why it would be different with the cumulus.
With the stickiness.
But like what she ended up doing, like, you know, pulling the stitch a bit more. That's what I usually do in general for like, I do a regular cast off, but I just pull the stitches to make them bigger. Or some people use bigger size needles as well. But I actually very much enjoyed the Icelandic bind off. I think the finish looks really, really good. it's not too stretchy,
No, but just
stretchy enough
enough.
so you have the structure.
Yeah.
Without getting it, sometimes with garter, it's kind of a bit.
Yeah,
out of
it's
shape
one.
at the
It's
end,
actually one of my favorites with garter stitch, because I think
Yeah.
like it doesn't. I don't think it looks as well with a lot of other edging. But with
Mm.
garter stitch, it actually looks
It's perfect. Yeah.
really well. Like somebody described it to me before as looking like a reverse stockinette stitch I-cord, which I think it almost does,
It's
right?
a nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see it.
Yeah.
But it's thinner. It's
Yeah.
more subtle than any I-cord, I'd
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
It was a really nice finish, very neat for garter stitch. I really
Yeah.
liked it.
I learned Icelandic bind off a couple of years ago, and I remember going, oh, that's an interesting bind off, and kind of filed it away and never pulled it out. And then for whatever reason, this year, I think it might have been Torque. It was somewhere where I didn't really like. I wanted something like the I-cord bind off, but I didn't want it quite that big. And then some part of my memory dredged up the Icelandic, and I'm like, I remember there was another bind off.
I thought, was it the one that is it also called the Norwegian bind off or something? I was wondering if it didn't have like two names.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
I haven't come across the like.
We don't want to confuse.
I will investigate. I'll have a look, because it's very possible. I know that there's multiple cast-ons that I know are different, but I haven't.
Okay.
But I haven't investigated it enough with the bind offs.
Sometimes the names are. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, it's
everyone thinks they have reinvented a cast-on or a bind off and given it their own special name. So. But, there's a lot of reinventing, or as I think it was Elizabeth Zimmerman used to call it, unventing. It's like, I've just unvented something, which I thought was very accurate.
Oh, that's such a nice way of putting it.
But it is, because like there's people have been knitting for so many years that a lot of people have probably done some variation on it. And even if it's not given a name, it's in all likelihood been used or something similar. And like a lot of the cast-ons and bind-offs, they're only slight variations on each other. Like the Twisted German, I can never get over. Like Twisted German, which is also the Norwegian cast-on, I was looking at it and I'm like, it is the long tail cast-on with just one extra twist.
Do you know what maybe that's what I'm confusing it with.
It's very possible.
So please forget what I just said. But yeah, I think because it's an art that is not standardized.
Yeah.
And we don't have, there's as many encyclopedias of knitting as there are countries and areas and regions and languages. So
I'm looking. Laura's like, because she's just finished the test knit for the Cree cardigan using the Icelandic my bind off, and it was fresh in her mind. She just taught her friend to do it, and she loves it. Excellent. It is a handy bind off, and I think that I'm not inclined to use it too much outside of garter stitch. But I do quite like garter stitch edging, so it kind of comes into play quite often. There was, I've gone too far down here. There was one other question here. Cheryl, when she was doing the body decreases for this, so after you come past the fullest bust point and you're doing decreases, it was, you do the first one, and then every 9th round you do a decrease. And so she was running, we've actually had a discussion in relation to this.
I think about it every time.
And so it was, and she's like, so is that, there's 9 rounds in between or afterwards? And so what it is every 9th round. So the way I write that out is I will have my stitch pattern, so which is a repeat of 4, and I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th round, circle. That's the one that's the decrease round. And then I'll count to the 9 ones after that, and that's the next one. So that will mean that there's 8 rounds in between where there's no decreases, or vice versa when you're doing increases.
I always wonder about this.
But it's very straightforward. If you write it down, you know what round it's going to be happening on, which means you can count. Like if you write every row out, and if it's every 9th round, there's 8 rounds in between.
Yes, but like I think what you wrote for the sleeves for that pattern, you wrote it. You said knit 6 rows, row 7 do the decreases, and repeat the past 7 rows.
Yeah.
So I knew
really
that there
obvious.
was six stitches, and then the way I don't even like, because I find that the ripple stitch, always find it like a little bit harder to read. What I would do is like I would look at it through the light and count the holes, not the stitches.
Oh, interesting.
So I can't, because sometimes you just get confused as whether to count like which which is the stitch you count in the garter, this and that. So I held it to the light and counted the holes. So I saw my decrease stitch and then counted 6 holes and then did another.
That's really interesting.
Because I always wonder.
Yeah, and one thing that I should say as well is with these, because it looks like you can do decrease rounds on the sleeves or on the body on the purl round, but it looks a little different. So generally speaking, I will just put it before or after and keep them all in knit.
What did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
I reckon that one, and then just ignore it and then pretend that it was where it was supposed to be and then continue on. Because in my mind, one row moved up or down is not going to be visible in the pattern once you don't continue it on through, just to simplify it. So you don't have to. You can absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. It's like,
yeah.
I'm like,
oh my god. No, yeah, okay. I think that's kind of a really nice attention to detail at this stage of like really trying to get, it's the kind of stuff that when you've made it and
exactly.
you have that kind of satisfaction. Yeah.
I am curious from what we were talking about last time around. Somebody didn't like the way, you have a start and stop with with garter stitch in the bottom, and was thinking about putting a slip stitch like you have here running up the inside. So if you did it, or if you're planning on doing it, I'm really curious. I think it is a very good solution. It's effectively putting a seam line down the bottom where you can have the decreases on each side, and it would work great. Like it would work really well.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I'm also going to pull this up because I know there's been a couple of questions about armhole depth for the vest and things like that, and people worried about it being too big. And I will actually say that to me, when wearing it, first of all, I found it much more comfortable to have vests with a fairly generous size armhole, because I usually wear them with shirts and things like that. And I find shirts end up taking up quite a lot of volume. So it's quite nice to have a little open. But with Cumulus in particular, it does tend to stretch out. So it's going to look huge and completely unstable. So the I-cord edging is going to give you quite a bit of structure and quite a bit of stability afterwards. If you're worried about it before you do anything else, before you the neck, you can actually go ahead and do that. And if you think that you do want it smaller, drop down a needle size in your I-cord. It'll really help pull it in. Maybe pick up a few less stitches, but that might not even be necessary. I think maybe even just the smaller edging. But it does work to stabilize it so it doesn't look so enormous, but you do want it fairly generously shaped, because that's kind of the whole with vests. This style works better, I think, with a slightly bigger opening. So just to reassure anyone who's getting a bit worried about the vest opening and the sleeves, particularly in Cumulus, that it will be okay. And worst case scenario, you can even knit a couple of rounds of decreases and then do your I-cord or something like that if you really, really don't like it after the fact, because it's such a small amount that it's easy to come back and to kind of correct it and tweak it and pull it in a little bit to suit yourself. So I'm going to actually turn it over to you to see if you've got anything you want to talk about in relation to finishing off the knit, or anything that you think will help people as they're going through, or knitters.
I think, and I know I keep going on about it, but it was really all about the blocking for me, because Blasta, it was about trusting my gauge that had been blocked, because the process of making this, I found, I was trying it on as we were going, and I tried to kind of seam block the top as well when I was trying on the top, and I was just very worried because it felt too tight. I was very, very worried. I was like, remember you did your math. And then as soon as I tried it on after blocking this morning, I was like, I worried for nothing. Like, for instance, I was kind of shaking my head vigorously about the kind of the armhole, because when I was trying it on, this part felt incredibly tight, and I was really worried. I was like, oh my god. And then I blocked it to dimensions though. Like, I block everything with my tape measure. Yeah. And now I have a really nice ease. I'm wearing a t-shirt underneath, and it's absolutely fine. Yeah. So I think, the more, especially like the more yarns I work with, the more I try to trust the process of blocking your gauge. Yeah. Really doing that. Yeah.
And knowing how the yarn is going to behave after post-blocking. It won't happen for all yarns. Some yarns that doesn't happen, but
I think Blasta, because I like Blasta a lot. I've knitted with it a lot, and it's just like how it the structure it gives to garments. Yeah. And it's yeah, you have to trust that process. I think with the bust, and there's a few yarns that are like that I really like, and that block quite dramatically, but
And
it's
looky here,
worth
we've
it.
got Cecilia said she absolutely loves Magali's Blosta and the colour's amazing on her.
So I didn't take the colour, but I'll still take it.
It does look lovely on you. I do agree. This is Kirk,
it's the
isn't
cork.
it? Yeah.
It's the cork one.
CORC for anyone who's wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely. Now, as we have spent quite a while talking about this, we do have not one, but two surprises for you all today. So I'm going to get Magali to swap out one for another stand over here.
Yes.
Because our first surprise is something that is actually all because of you. Not several months ago, it was nearly last year. We've been talking about the iced cardigan. So that was an older pattern I had. It was like one of the very first ones I did with Knitty Magazine, and a super chunky cotton yarn. And I really liked the general idea of it, but it was one of those ones where as I looked at it and knew as I developed as a designer, there was a lot of things I'd like to tweak. And also there was a lot of requests for it in a smaller gauge. So, ta-da!
Ta-da! I should have waited to reveal it, but it's no
longer iced. It is now the Cree cardigan, CHROI, and it is live on the website. So there's many things I want to talk about with this because of the fact that it was one. Again, I seem to be doing a lot of variants. So this one, as you can probably see, this is the longer version. So the longer version here, I'll pull it in a little closer, has got, we've got pockets.
So you listen to the people, and we have now pockets.
And it's got a belt. It has got not armhole shaping. It's got waist shaping. So we've got decreases down to the waist, increases down here. This is a fairly generous size. This is, I think, the third size that I knit. So it's fairly generous. The sleeves, similar to the original, are left quite wide so that it's got kind of a wide, loose, flowing feel with also a fairly generous raglan. I went totally overboard with the collar because I had so much fun with this. So I did a double wrap collar that you can wear in both ways. So yes, you can see it if I stand up.
Yeah.
So you can see, look, it is really large. Oh. You can open it up like this so that you've got a really wide collar. You've got they've got a couple of inches where they fold over with an I-cord bind off here. This is sitting a bit funny, but you can cross them over like this. Or what I find I like to wear is to kind of just wrap this a second time, which creates just a really, really cozy,
kind of snug
collar. That's how I like to wear it. But if you like one that's got kind of a more dramatic collar, you could open it up. So this is the long version. There is a shorter hip length version that will have different shaping with the lengths on that and a different number of stitches picked up. The original version, because of the fact that it was done in cotton and I didn't really adjust for how much the garter gauge grew, the front kind of comes down quite a bit. Whereas with this, it lies very neatly across here and it just crosses over a couple of inches. It's not fully crossed over. So it lies the way it should across the front. And the shorter version has a pocket option. You don't have to have pockets. If you're not a pocket person, you do not have to put them in. They're patch pockets afterwards. And the shorter one wouldn't have a belt as well. So on the website, you can get Cree. You can get the Jas we've got all of the new Jas colors are up there now. So this merino,
very exciting.
mohair. We've got these toggle buttons on there, and we've also got a second option for the toggles, because I think toggles work really well with this because you've got the big I-cord buttonholes, so it gives a kind of a very dramatic effect as you close it. So I'm really happy with the cardigan, so I'm hoping you're going to enjoy it as well.
This looks like an everyday, in your house, outside the house, all the time staple.
And if you want to do this, but you're not, you're like, maybe not right now, you can right now. We've got not just this is the second special thing I want to tell you about. We've got a Halloween sale that is starting today. You can use Spooky 15 on the website to get 15% off everything, including this pattern and the yarn and the buttons, until the 29th, for as long as the yarn lasts. Like, we do have a pretty good supply of Jas, but it depends how big the demand is. So, and some colors do go faster than others. And there was something else. Oh, in addition to this, with the actual the Halloween sale, everyone who orders over €50, we will put you into a raffle for on the 31st. We'll draw where Celtic Knits Club 25, the wrap option, that will be the first prize. And there's going to be 2 other prizes of €50 gift vouchers as well. So everyone who orders over €50 over the course of the sale will be entered into the raffle. So we'll announce that on the 31st. And then the very final thing with this is the Cree knit through. We're going to, when we go into December last year with you more, we had a knit through with all of you, which it's often a pretty good time to knit something for yourself in tandem with perhaps if you're doing gift knitting, or maybe you don't do gift knitting and you want something warm and cozy for Christmas. So during December, we'll be doing a knit through for the for Cree, and you'll be able to kind of come along, and we'll do lives here as well for that to kind of answer any questions you might have. When you buy the pattern, as with you more, while there isn't a full workshop, what I have done is there's brand new tutorials on pockets, on doing the belt, on adding the belt loops, and I've put a couple of little tutorials or sections in for all of the key ones, like the German short rows and things like that. So if there's new techniques to you, you will be automatically enrolled in a workshop that has all of that information. So that is a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of exciting stuff.
It's been a very, very exciting couple of days here. Magali, I am going to let you run because I know you need to go at 4, but I'm going to just have a quick flick through to see if there are any other questions as we go through. We've got Magali, you were thinking the sweater turned out too small, but later found out the swatch is telling the truth after all. So she had the same experience. Perfect.
That's amazing.
Somebody was asking, can you do a garment with invisible side pockets on my next garment for future reference? Oh. Certainly. Well, if you're curious about doing that, my tabbouleh cardigan has got invisible side pockets where you've just taken stitches out, then you continue down, you come back. So if you're looking for one that uses that style pocket, then the tabbouleh will be the one for you. And I can see that we've just popped up the code up there if you want it now. So if you have any other questions, just pop them up now. Otherwise, I should release you into the wild to go jump onto Stolen Stitches and yes, and go grab yourself whatever you want from the sale. Have a great Halloween. Anything that's ordered over the course of the sale, it'll be Tuesday it's shipped because Laura is off on holidays for the week, and we have a bank holiday on Monday. So Tuesday will be when we start all of our shipping, just to let you know. But thank you all, and have an amazing weekend. Bye.
Bye.